Hello and welcome to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today I'm joined by Mary Paulus and also Joe Iacono. Is that how you say your name?
Iacono is a silent Y.
Iacono. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why did I try it? Like, this was so silly. Like, I didn't know what it would be.
How
Am
do
I
we
right?
not know this?
Hard one
Yakino.
to
Oh,
get
that's
right the
cool.
first time.
Iacono. That's a cool name, man. That's cool. Am I all right saying your surname on here?
Yeah, of course. It's Italian.
Italian. Oh,
Yeah.
wicked, man. Yeah, I love Italy. Obviously, just being there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could talk about Italy forever, so let's get right into the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about Joe's experience of learning the Beyond Compulsion method and how that experience has been compared to some other programs that he's gone on in the past, maybe other methods that he tried in the past, NoFap. We've had you on the podcast before, Joe, but you've kept on sort of growing, and now you're even sharing this message on your own YouTube channel as well. So it's going to be quite cool to do a bit more of an update on all of that. So welcome on the podcast, both you, Joe and Mary. Joe, do you want to kind of share how the last however months it's been, how's your experience been since we last maybe spoke and since you joined the program? Just give a bit of an update first of all, and then maybe we'll explore the previous methods that you've tried in the past as well a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So I joined back in the start of April, I think, to the BCA, Beyond Compulsion Academy. And yeah, it's been quite crazy to think from where I was back then to where I am now. And yeah, it's really sort of a paradigm shift. The exact thing I was looking for back when I was taking these other programs in order to quit my full-time porn addiction, right? So just like a backstory from the other podcast, like I was addicted to porn for about 17 years. So it all began when I was 13 years old. And I think it's a lot of the typical stories that we hear. I'm exactly the same kind of guy, right? And for about 9 of those years, since my, I think it was 3rd or 4th year of university, I discovered NoFap and trying to quit for at least 9 of those years. And through these 9 years, it was very sort of difficult to sort of get a real grasp and understanding of the problem I was in, because a lot of the stuff that we classically hear, like online and through advice, wasn't really working for me in terms of stopping the behavior. And so there's a lot of stuff to cover, I guess. But yeah, as you were saying, I've been through 2 paid programs before I joined this one. This one seemed to be the solution that worked for me. And it makes total sense now I've been through it. And fast forward to right now, I've been on this program for 4 or 5 months now. And it's a second chance at life, which are the guys in the program could second. So in a good place right now.
Awesome. Yeah,
Love to
thanks
hear
for
that.
sharing. Yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk a little bit about those paid programs then, like that you've done in the past? Obviously, you don't need to go into details and start calling out people or anything like that, but maybe just kind of from a method sort of language kind of perspective, like what went wrong, like why didn't they work? Because I know they cost a lot of money as well, right?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I want to say about these programs is that I think because we're in this new age of this sort of seemingly new problem of pornography addiction, I think it makes sense that a lot of the solutions that exist out there right now aren't perhaps sort of fine-tuned and tailored to the exact thing that's sort of covering all the bases in terms of actually treating pornography addiction, right? Masturbation and pornography. Obviously, Mary must have been hiding this whole time because Tom, you only joined sort of like 2024, right?
Yeah.
So like in the grand scheme of Mary's 30-year-long career of treating stuff, we're pretty new to this method. But I think a lot of the sort of space of like, pornography addiction is not quite fine-tuned to all this stuff yet. So when it comes to other programs, I think yes, it's annoying for a customer to try a solution and have it not work for them, but at the same time, because it's such a relatively new phenomenon, we can't give them too much slack. But I will go into it. So the first paid program I tried after a whole load of years of trying like willpower, no fap methods, cold showers, routines, exercise, all that stuff, right? That we all typically try after years of doing that without, being on these like no fap streaks, which we'll get into. I first joined a paid program in 2020. So it was the start of COVID. And this program costs around about £8,000 in total. And I couldn't really afford it at the time because I had to sort of pay monthly. And, it was kind of like, damn, I'm taking a real chance here, but I need to solve this problem, right? It's a problem that's, causing me a lot of issues in my life, right? As it does to all of us. So he was the coach at the time. He was really good to me and he took me on for a whole year. And I think he was doing that over COVID. So he really sorted me out there. But it's, again, the product, like the program of sort of treating the addiction was sort of something that, is the typical stuff that we see, right, throughout the NoFap advice. So there's a lot of stuff to get into, but I think that the main points that I would probably mention is that, you enter this program, there's a whole load of video modules where there's just a lot of info and to unpack. You're not really sure what information you should get started on and how that ties into a system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, like sharing of wins and losses inside the group, because it was like a social group that you sign up to, and then you can share your wins and losses with other guys in there, which is good. You don't feel alone, but again, it's just this whole community of talking over the same thing over and over again. There were like weekly calls where you could join, so about 1 or 2 weekly calls, which you get to talk with other guys and share your wins and losses there as well. But it was just focused on that, and the theme of the weekly call was different every week. So on one week it was talking about perhaps your relationships. On the other week it was perhaps talking about exercise routines. It was never focused on like one thing. Like it definitely wasn't focused on rewiring addicted neural pathways, which is what this method's on, and we'll get onto that later. But another one, as we all like find in this space, like avoiding triggers, working out, eating healthy, count all your wins. There was like this morning routine we had to do every day. So we would note down how we're feeling in the morning, and we all did that. But I wasn't really clear on what the main goal of that was. And I assume it was sort of this method of trying to dig up stuff from the past, perhaps emotionally, but I didn't see the sort of result from that. Accountability partners was another one. So when we joined the program, we were all assigned accountability partners on WhatsApp. And again, like it's just sort of, like I get what the intention was. It just wasn't effective in that sense. I didn't get too much. I didn't really get a solution from that, apart from perhaps relating with other guys. And I did install a blocker at one point during the program, which didn't really sort of work. It makes sense, like why that doesn't work. So that was the first program.
Wow.
We'll get to the second one after that. Yeah.
Dollars. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And what is like healthy eating and fitness really have to do with porn addiction? Like zero, like nothing, I mean, it's just like, what is this healthy eating and fitness applying to like literally everything? I don't know. There's a lot to be said about all the things that you just mentioned, but I'll let you go ahead and continue on. So
But just one thing before you get stuck into the second one, I think it's really important to acknowledge like why some of those things wouldn't work then. So yeah, I mean, fitness and healthy eating wouldn't work because you're still going to have that moment where you've got these relentless junky thoughts and unanswerable questions. You're going to have compulsive desires no matter what you do, because the neural pathways are wired in this way, and that's not your fault, as it wasn't for me, as it wasn't for anyone listening. So you're going to have these thought patterns, and they're going to keep on coming up and up and up until they're dealt with directly. So you can do as much fitness and exercise as you want, but those thoughts are still going to be in your mind because those thought patterns haven't been changed, right? And then the second thing that I think is really important about like the journaling, you said you had this morning routine where you're journaling, talking about maybe how you feel and so on. Well, based on like rational emotive behavioral therapy sort of the premise is that your thoughts create your feelings. So if you're thinking in a certain way, well, you're going to feel pretty terrible. And so you may just be journaling every morning about, oh, I feel lonely today. I feel stressed today. I
Ugh,
feel frustrated. But the
I
thoughts are
feel
going to
like I
keep
want to
on
use
going.
porn. How about that? Wake up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to
Yeah.
work.
I feel like I want to use porn. But the other thing you said too, Joe, that I think is really important is when you go to the platform and there's all the videos and whatever, and you don't really know what to consume and what to use and how to use it. I think that's really critical piece because there's so much, when you have an addiction, the addictive part of the mind wants you to get into sort of this state of confusion and questioning yourself and whatever. And if you go to this platform and you don't know what do I watch, how do I use it, that's just gonna, create, you know, the advantage for the addictive part of the mind, where with the beyond compulsion method, which I know we'll get into more, is very specific. You do this at this exact time, and right. So yeah,
Mm,
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a problem as well.
No, absolutely. And the thing with that program, I think we can sort of, from me being in it, dig up a lot of themes about how I think one of the core fundamental strategies of trying to solve the problem of, being in this compulsion was digging up stuff from the past and perhaps delving into the past and like unpacking your mental blockers and your trauma and stuff from your childhood, right? And I think what strategy that they seem to want to promote here, and is the same with a lot of other coaches on YouTube. Taking the diet one, for example, the exercise and diet one, for example, one of the opinions I've heard is that, okay, well, if you go through a diet and exercise transformation and you can transform the actual body that you're in, therefore you're going to feel like a lot more different about yourself and change your self image because you feel different, you look different, and then you're embodying a different person in your mind, right? And
Mm,
so therefore you'll detach yourself from that. But it's just simply not how it works. Like addicting neural pathways, they don't operate on that sort of level of emotional, like internal emotion, right? And
Right.
so where it was the same also with this sort of uh like we were saying, the morning routine thing, noting down your emotions. Note your emotions down enough times and perhaps you'll uncover something and you'll realize something. But even if you were to address that, let's say if you did solve that and address that, you still have the addiction, you still have those addicted neural pathways which have not been altered. Like
yeah.
you're still going to want to watch pornography, you're still going to want to masturbate, you're still going to be in compulsion.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
think
And if
as,
you,
go
so
ahead, Mary.
yeah, yeah, and if you uncover this stuff with your morning journaling or whatever, and then you have more emotions, and then you probably will have more desire to use porn, and then you don't have a tool to deal with it
Yeah, exactly.
directly. Yeah.
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 Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to add was like, I think what you were hinting at there is kind of the idea of identity change. This idea that if you have all your other habits in place and you get into the gym and you're journaling, you're doing all these great things, as a lot of coaches will talk about on YouTube, and it's a kind of James Clear sort of atomic habits kind of idea. That
Yeah.
your identity is going to change, and therefore your habits, your behaviors are going to change as well, because you're just not going to be someone who watches porn anymore. You're just not this fapper, right? But like, it's such bullshit, because there's so many people who are incredibly successful, far more successful than the average person, who are deep in a porn addiction, right? Now that program, $8,000, like, let's be straight about it, like, let's be blunt, you've got to be quite successful in your life as a whole, compared to the average person in society, to spend $8,000 on any education, really. I mean, if you look at the world as a whole, right? Obviously, like, university probably costs more, but still, it's like, to have that level of disposable income to spend on like a program for self-improvement, or like changing your life or addiction, you still got to have money, right? So it's like, a lot of people's identity is already there's already a lot of success there. But then it's like, there's this conflict, the constant conflict, where you've got these two different parts. And And that's what causes so much harm to people, is feeling like there's this one side, which is great, and you got your shit together. And like maybe you got your family, you got your kids, you got your business or whatever it is. And then there's this other part. And that part's kind of going on behind closed doors that no one really knows about. And so that's the problem for a lot of people. It's like there's this, it feels like there's these two parts to you. So yeah, identity change ain't gonna do it, that's for sure.
Right. And the thing is, too, is like, okay, they could probably sell you this program, $8,000, right? Somehow this is going to help you with this porn addiction problem. But really, when you get in there, what you're doing is getting a bunch of advice you could get for free on YouTube from every Joe Blow on the planet. You know, meditate, journal, eat healthy, do fitness, deal with your trauma, but they present it as a solution for porn addiction, I'm assuming is why you bought into it. Yeah.
Mm.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I think the other thing though to like give a bit of credit to that program is
Yeah. Do that,
maybe
Tom.
that's part of the reason why you've been able to like get to a position where you're very comfortable talking about this issue, is that you have that understanding of what doesn't work, and maybe you got more comfortable talking about the problem within that community by going to the group calls and sharing it and talking
Yeah.
about it. Not to say that that would solve the problem, but if you separate the two things of, okay, there's one problem which is like actually dealing with addiction and changing your neural pathways and being in control of yourself. And then there's a separate thing entirely, which is like being comfortable enough to talk about the issue and, create a YouTube channel. And like for me personally, I definitely mastered the art of talking about this on a camera and being open. And at first for me, that was talking about relapsing a lot, on the podcast that I had before Mary came along, and I changed everything. So, I actually that's easier, I think, of like talking about this problem. I actually think that's easier than solving the problem and actually overcoming it. So you may have learned some good skills to sort of solve that problem, and also some good self-improvement skills. But then it's
Yeah.
like, well, actually, then what do I do? Like, how do I actually deal with the problem directly, like the real problem, which is compulsive desires?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think being through these other programs has given me a lot of data about like kind of what the average experience. I mean, it's sort of when you're in a full-time addiction, um, it's quite difficult to sort of see beyond your own sort of experience, as we're wrapped up in as what we call in BCA, like addictive thoughts, aka junkie thoughts, and you have this sort of filter of darkness over your eyes because you're in that addiction, and a lot of us relate to this, right? So I think being exposed to a lot of people in these other groups gave me a lot of data in a way to see like what was happening and what other people's experience were. And you're right, as Mary was saying, and you were saying, Tom, like it doesn't matter sort of what kind of person is in that program. Like you were saying, Tom, a lot of them they were fathers, doctors, lawyers. They were very successful people, and in some cases, as we'll get onto, like there were some super famous people I met on some of these programs. It was freaking crazy, but it just goes to show that like this, when it comes to the addiction, it isn't exactly something that kind of caps your success, unless in a real sense it can, when you have junky thoughts, when you have all this addictive thinking, which can bring on these negative consequences that affects that success. We'll get onto that, but yeah, it's something that is separate, and it's like being the addiction isn't like the person, it's a separate thing, right? It's something that they're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah. Like you were saying about like change, do all these things to change your identity, become a different person. Right. When when the addiction is something that you're experiencing in your neural pathways, you're experiencing compulsive desire and acting on it. It's not who you are, right? So you're changing
Yes.
your identity and somehow you're going to lose the addicted neural pathways. That's just something that's happening to you at that time. It's not you as a person, right? We don't
No,
want to change
exactly.
we don't want to change you. We just want to change your addicted neural pathways. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. And it makes total sense, like why, like, gathered some people's neural pathways, let's say they're more conditioned, more addicted than others. And that's why perhaps some people find it easier to stop a behavior than others. And for people such as myself, who have been doing the act of, engaging on pornography for so many years over a long period of time, that your pathway has been etched for, however many years I've been, in the behavior for 17 full years. And so, of course, the rewiring process is going to look a bit more longer, perhaps more different. But given you have a right system, like, it's very doable, very easy, very manageable.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it doesn't, and just for the record, like, as I discovered, it does not matter how long you've been engaging for. It doesn't matter, like, let's say you're in a situation where you're watching a lot of content right now, which is not in your sexual taste in the real world, but you're online, you're just watching things that you wouldn't necessarily engage in real life, right? Um, that doesn't really matter either. You can rewire. It doesn't matter where you are. This neural wiring situation for you is temporary right now.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely. And you can change it. And yeah, I think you both bring up a good point there, that there's this distinction between the rational part of the mind and the addicted part of the mind. And when you have this education and you really start to see, the junky thoughts, the unanswerable questions as coming from the addicted part of the mind, you separate that out from the addicted part of the mind. I actually think that's one of the best ways to sort of start to live with more integrity and feel like you can open up and talk about this problem. Like this morning, I was at a networking event, and it's the first time I've been to this event for like over a year or so. I used to go to it a lot when I used to work for a tech company, and it was so interesting to be able to like just talk about porn addiction so openly and honestly. And one woman even said to me like, wow, like you've come quite a long way. Because like the first time I met you, like you didn't even mention this whole porn addiction thing. Whereas like today, I was just like, hey guys, I'm Tom. I help people stop watching porn. Like I used to have a big problem with it. And I just don't, you don't really feel scared that other people are going to judge you, because you see
Yeah.
that, well, yeah, you had this part of your mind, the addicted part of the mind. It's not that there's something wrong with you or there's some like intrinsic sexual desire out of place. It's like we're all susceptible to addiction. And quite frankly, we live in a pretty messed up, over sexualized society right now. So it can be a big relief getting this education and then going beyond it.
An overly
Yeah.
addicted society.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Another thing, Joe, that you've said a couple times on the podcast, which I've picked up on, is you've said, full-time addiction, right? And I think that's really interesting language. Mary talks about that a lot in the program, like full-time addiction. Just to anyone listening, do you want to kind of share your perspective on that and what it means really to like be in a full-time addiction?
Yeah. So the other way of saying it is addiction is a full-time job. So
Yeah.
it's not just us going and engaging in the behavior for our sake. For instance, with us, we're talking about pornography, masturbation, right? But being in a full-time addiction, yeah, you're engaging in the behavior, but it's also the constant mental conflict which happens in your mind outside of the time of engaging, because there's this situation where you want to engage in the behavior, of course, because we have urges, quote unquote, for it, right? We have that discomfort when we're in withdrawal for it. So we obviously want it to a degree. And we also feel negative consequences after engaging. So there's all that emotion and all that stuff
Yeah.
attached to it, which is included in the conflict. And there's also the side effects of, let's say, because you spent time in that behavior, you perhaps, have neglected other areas of your life, maybe impacted your family, your sleep, your routine with self-care. All of these things, they really add up at the end of the day. And this is why it's a full-time situation being in a compulsive behavior, right? And I'm sure many people will agree that it can affect your working, it can affect your social situation, like being very anxious as well. There's a lot of conflict there to deal with. So there's a lot of stuff to deal with just because we're in this
Yeah.
situation of compulsive behavior.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't get to just go do it, right? And then clear the slate, right? And now you're fine, you're good and good, and then you have a desire whenever, and then you go back, you do it, you're done. It's like trying not to do it, right? Because you want to stop doing it. So there's all the energy goes into trying not to do it, and whatever you spend time doing to try to do that. And then you do it, and then you get that little bit of temporary relief, and now you go into regret. And now then you're back in the I want to do what I want to stop. I want to do it. I want to stop. It really is a full time job. Yeah. People
Yeah,
underestimate that. You don't get to just do it and then put it aside until you do it again. It's not like that. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was the case for me. Absolutely. I mean, there was, I think, after, and it is quite crazy. I mean, like after the first program I did, the effects of the being in it full time sort of um, was amplified, right? So I was going through a lot of troubling sort of constant conflict. The amount of constant conflict I was experiencing after that first program was pretty intense, because I was like, oh well, I failed this first program. I say failed. It was like, okay, well, if I haven't stopped, it's not the outcome I want, right? And because I hadn't stopped after that first program, I spent all that money, right? I was thinking, well, there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with my desires, and that kind of was amplified, and I was ended up engaging like a lot more. When
Yeah.
I used to count days and count streaks, like we did in the NoFap sort of era, those streaks would get shorter and shorter and shorter, and yeah, that was a situation. So it got more full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of people that go on diets, They go on they go on a diet for, a month, and they go on a diet for 3 weeks, and they go on a diet for 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 days, and then they don't bother at all, Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm not surprised the addictive part of the mind went there as well. Like, I can just imagine
Yeah.
that, you're obviously then going to be like questioning yourself, like having
Yeah.
more unanswerable questions. And that's the thing with the addictive part of the mind is they'll use any experience in your life to try and get you to engage. Let's say there's a career change or, yeah, in your situation, if you do a program that doesn't actually deal with the addictive part of the mind directly, then the addictive part of the mind is going to capitalize on that, and it's going to create unanswerable questions based on the
Mhm.
theme of what's going on in your life already anyway. It's like we were talking on the group call last night about a guy who had a big life decision around like moving job and moving location and potentially ending
Yeah.
his relationship and so on. And it's like, because he's in the peak of addiction right now, the addictive part of the mind's capitalizing on that situation. So now he's got all these unanswerable questions, the conflated choice, and that's what it does. It is relentless in its pursuit to get someone to engage in their compulsive behavior. But
Yeah.
once you understand that, it's not really a much of a problem. Like, you just take things moment by moment and deal with it and change those neural pathways, and then get to experience the freedom in between the desires,
Yeah, when
really.
you can
Yeah,
separate the two, right? Okay, this is the big life decisions. This is the addiction, and this is the addictive part of the mind that's going to use the big life decisions to conflate the choice, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you got to
So
learn
Joe,
that that's going to happen. It's not something you can be aware of innately, without education
yeah,
about how the addictive part of the mind works. Yeah.
exactly, exactly, yeah.
yeah. Joe, do you want to tell us a bit about the second program then? How much did that one cost roughly, and how was it? What sort of things were you doing in there?
Yeah, so the second one was I saw an ad on YouTube last year actually. So it was set August 2024, and so I joined it then. And you pay monthly, so it was $1,000 a month, so 1K a month, and you pay. It's like a pay as you go sort of thing, which again was good. And so what happens is like you have 3 weekly calls in the week where you touch base. Like one is with your coach one to one, and then the other two are group calls again. So again, it's good because you get to be around other people in your situation, relate on that level. But again, it wasn't like a discussion that was targeted towards a certain goal of rewiring. It was like sharing your wins, sharing your losses, sharing your general experience of life in that sense. And when I look back, it's obviously just telling your life from the perspective of someone in a full-time constant conflict, right? Um, there was a big emphasis on avoiding triggers. So on the first day that you had the one-to-one with the coach, you like wrote down all your triggers and you were like, okay, this is all the stuff we need to avoid. And obviously trigger avoidance is something that we don't, we don't do in the beyond compulsion thing. There's good reasons for that, but this is what we were focusing on. So restrict yourself from triggers in life, right? There was a lot of talk about mindfulness. So every sort of call, we'd start with a meditation. Again, it was good, but again, it's like it's something that's kind of useful in general life. It's not something tailored to addiction, right? Addiction recovery, really. And the other thing here was that was a big, 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 big emphasis on days, and then counting days. How many days were you free? So on the one hand, what we had to do was every day we would text the coach at the end of the day what day we were on, how we felt, and that's what that was checking in, right? So you had to log your day, and then the other thing that was sort of promoting the counting days culture was if someone got to 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, typically what was happening, because I was there, like obviously watching this, you would be given the task of like sharing your testimony of being 30 days free or 60 days free or 90 days free. And as we know, counting days isn't a great solution. Like if you're still feeling constant conflict for however many days, it really isn't like a win. But we can get onto that. And I think as well, like as well meaning that the coaching staff are in this program and the last one, as well meaning as they are, it's really hard to ascertain the level of understanding of the problem from their perspective. And so in the end, it just wasn't really, I didn't really feel it was a good fit at the end of the day. And it was just that 1 month. So that was the end of that one. But it was crazy. And like, I think this was the one I met the very famous person in. Obviously we don't talk about outside the group, but again, it's just perspective, right? And just knowing that this problem does not discriminate, wherever you are, whoever you are, what gender you are, whatever, it's very real. And the consequence is very real.
Yeah. I think something that stands out from you sharing that is, you've talked about this with me before actually, but the comparison fatigue of looking at what days someone else is on. And this came up in our group call last night as well. Like, I know you were on the group call, so you would have heard it, but we had another guy who's just joined the program last week, and he was saying that the addictive part of his mind was actually wanting to ask everyone, like, what day are you on?
Yeah.
Because he was really intrigued, right? Like, oh, well, this guy's like talking about the beyond compulsion method in his script, and he's in a really good place. So, I wonder what day he's on though. Like that's how I'm going to judge the validity of this program, or maybe whether this guy's worth listening to or not. But as you know, like that's the addicted part of the mind talking. Like if you were free from an addiction, you obviously wouldn't be thinking about how many days someone's gone without masturbating or looking at porn. Like people who don't have this problem don't think about that when other people are talking. So that's how you know it's clearly the addicted part of the mind. Like me and Mary, we don't actually care like really how many days someone's on. I mean, occasionally perhaps we'll maybe share, oh yeah, this person's gone 6 months or something like that as a benchmark kind of figure. But that in itself is rare of us to do. And we definitely don't care how many days someone's gone, because you can be on day one, like straight line, Liberation Day call. You can be on day one and make a million times more progress, make a million times more, live with more freedom, feel more confident than you could on day 180 or day 90 or whatever. And I'm I'm proof of that. Like I've done the day 90, like 3, 4, 5 times, whatever before Mary. I wasn't free. I was still in a constant conflict. I didn't really know how to change my neural pathways. I was doing all the stuff like you kind of talked about in that last program where you're removing the triggers, avoiding the triggers. But that to me isn't freedom. So it's about shifting the goal and seeing that the goal is actually how do you get in control of your mind and be able to make rational choices moment by moment throughout your whole day and feel good about your choices and do it from an empowering place rather than, oh, I want to get to 90 days without porn. Like it's such a superficial, like temporary goal that very rare, not many people can even do that anyway.
And you
Yeah.
said that the comparison, how the comparison's not helpful. So and so did this many days, and then it's like, oh well, I want to get to this many days, and in the past I did this many days, so I want to exceed that, right? When the only thing that really matters is the next moment of compulsive desire. Otherwise, you're thinking into the future, which is a ploy from the addictive part of the mind. You're thinking into the future, comparing it to the past, comparing it to somebody else when the only thing that matters is the next moment of compulsive desire. So you don't have to worry, right? You've got the next moment of compulsive desire. You have your script that you know that your intention is to use that script when you're faced with that. And if you do that, then you're good until the next moment of compulsive desire. So the
Yeah.
day counting is counterproductive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like if you wanted to learn how to drive a car, you wouldn't then think, oh, okay, I've passed my test. It's now been, I don't know, 58 days since I last passed my driving test. And then maybe you don't drive your car for a few weeks and it's like, okay, now it's been 21 days since I last drove my car to Sainsbury's. It's like, you're not going to be thinking about that. If you're actually free from this problem, it isn't something that's healthy. It's actually very unhealthy and it just leads to more unanswerable questions, junky thoughts, the thoughts like, when will I be truly free from this addiction? Am I
Yeah.
free now? How many days until blah, blah, blah? And that's probably why my most viewed video on YouTube is 90 days no fap timeline. Because everyone who struggles with this problem wants to know about the experience and the different days. And I created that when I was in an addiction. And obviously I relapsed after doing it, a few weeks later because I didn't know how to deal with compulsive desires back then. And that video's now got like 30 plus thousand views because everyone wants to know about these different days and the flat line and the different phases, but it's all just compulsivity, like the over analysis of something that is like just bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. And it was also something, a big realization as well. Like when we were talking about days, when I first joined the program, we were talking about, okay, well, I was thinking, oh, so someone reached 90 days for us, crazy, right? It's a big thing. And then obviously we unlearned, unwired that sort of thinking, which was, very key. But it just goes to show that even if you were to reach however many days, let's say you reached 120 days or even a year, that you could be feeling crap that whole time. That whole time you've just got a rubbish experience of
Yeah.
stopping behavior with junky thoughts, not knowing how to deal with urges, using willpower the whole time. And your experience just could be just really just like grim and like really in other areas, the other areas of life that you want to work on, let's say, they're not really getting your full attention because you're still in that conflict, right? But like you said, Mary, which is, you mentioned the script, which is like, one of the flagship tools of the BCA, the BC method. You had the best analogy, which is 90 seconds of the script is better
Yeah.
than 90 days of no fap. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess it'd be interesting to kind of explore what is life like on the other side? What is life like beyond compulsion as such? Because we're kind of roasting, doing the no fap. We're saying, look, that's not a great way of doing things. You're going to be in the conflict. Me and Mary have worked with loads of guys who have spent literally a year, 2 years, up to like 3 years without porn and then relapse and have gone back into it. I even had a call with a guy today who said he's done that before as well, where he's gone a few months and then a year without porn, then he relapsed, and he's in his 50s now. He's on a call with me trying to solve the problem because it's still impacting his marriage and his family, right? So it's a big issue that impacts people. What's the other side like? I think a lot of people will want to hear about that experience and maybe be inspired, and not from a counting days perspective, but more just, okay, you're actually in control of your choices now. You know how to deal with any compulsive desire. You understand the addictive part of the mind inside and out. So how are things now compared to in the past?
Yeah. So saying the experience, I guess we'll talk about the experience. So as soon as we have like Liberation Day call, which is like the call that we have in the academy, where we like, okay, we've learned everything that we need to know in order to stop, and by that point you're very confident in what you need to know and what to do when those moments of urges come, when those moments of discomfort come up, right? And then after that day, as you said earlier, we just feel good on day one. Like we feel good on the very day that we decide to make that stop, because we know how to deal with it now. So we don't need to be on X days to sort of feel good. So we start then, right? So feeling good with a good attitude. And when these moments of urges come, you use a repeatable system, use something repeatable every time discomfort happens. And the experience is that, yes, an urge will come and you'll need to embrace that discomfort, but you have the tools to deal with it. So you can deal with it right there and then. And you're staying in the present moment while you're doing it. And so you're not overwhelmed by, let's say, these junky thinking that happen, these unanswerable questions that happen. And you're not sort of coming from a place of where I was before, like a place of weakness, a place of helplessness, where I couldn't sort of, when I was like, the urge is crazy. I don't know what to do about it, right? But now you get to come from a place of strength and connect with that desire directly, correctly, and be able to just get out on the other side of that urge after feeling it. And the experience of that is, as we talked about before, another time, I think, we described it as like a savings account. So once you have one win, once you have that one urge that you sort of process and get to the other side of without engaging, choosing option B instead of option A, which is engaging, choosing option B, embracing the temporary discomfort, you feel great. You feel really, feel a lot of integrity, feeling a lot of strength after that one, that very first dealing of the urge, right? And so when the next one comes and you feel the same thing, it's like a compounding effect. And so like the
Yeah.
benefits sort of in a graph, if you were to look at a graph, you'd be going upward, 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 because you're doing these wins so many times and you just feel like a sense of just not you're not in that constant conflict. You're not second guessing yourself. You're not feeling this perpetual shame that we used to feel when we were constantly engaging. And honestly, before I signed up to Beyond Compulsion, I was in that previous, the second paid program that I went in. Before I signed up to that, I was sitting there like, what is the answer? Like, what am I not getting here? It can't be rocket science. There's just something fundamental I'm not understanding here. And for me, this was it. And it was like, after 4 months of doing this, like a complete transformation, complete change of perspective. And there's a lot of material benefits, obviously, we can talk about. But for me, it's that the biggest win is just not having that constant conflict, thinking accurately, and coming from a place of strength. It's beautiful.
You said, Joe, it's like a savings account where you're gaining interest, right? Every time you think it through in the moment, you get a little bit more confident because you have this experience of being able to think it through and make a choice and deal with the discomfort, and then you get to a better place. You know, and then there's the opposite, which my article I wrote here, I brought sad food, talks about going on a diet and then gaining the weight back with interest every diet you go on. And that's kind of the same thing with the porn. If you go on the no fap streaks, you go on a number of days and then you don't make any changes. And then it's like you're hanging on, and then you relapse. And was talking to one guy at his Liberation Day call who, like, the last time he relapsed, he was using porn then, he said 12 to 15 times a day. And so every streak he would go on, then it comes back with interest, but in the in the wrong direction. You know, the interest rate is going way, way, way down, and you're like losing, 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 losing. Whereas if you think it through with your script in the moment, then you gain each time you do that, and you're actually making changes and making progress. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
literally the description of what I was experiencing after that first program. So
yeah.
I totally see where that guy's coming from, and
Hmm.
yeah, like it does bleed into other areas of your life if you're in that negative direction. And
Yeah,
so yes, it's a serious problem, honestly.
Definitely, definitely.
100%.
And
Yeah.
talking about it being a serious problem, so what's your next steps? Because you're joining us a little bit with the Beyond Compulsion Academy sort of videos, right? You got
Yeah.
your own YouTube channel, Joey. Is it Joey Beyond Compulsion? Is it called?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've watched a few of them and like they're really good as well. I think they're definitely
Yeah.
worth a watch. So if you're bored of listening to me and Mary, maybe go give Joe a
Yeah.
listen.
Well, can we put this on Joey Beyond Compulsion? Can we put this video on there?
Yeah, I mean, feel free.
Yeah,
We'll put it on ours for sure. But if you want to put it on yours as well, then maybe we can send you the video or something.
that'd be great.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like what on this, on the things that I do, like I'm a bit more long form. So like I think for like the viewers sort of thing, if you're someone who likes to plug in while doing something in the background, or you're just like chilling or even napping, and you want to listen to something, my content's more for that. I do a lot of longer form stuff, but yeah, this is the video making area of my life, as it seems, and so it's going to be something exciting for me to do. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
important. It's a real when it comes to porn addiction as a problem within this day and age at the moment. It is, yes, as I've said before on the previous podcast, like it is a problem um, that is a bit out of hand right now. And if we can get the correct way of stopping behaviors, uh, whatever compulsive behavior it is, with the focus on pornography being that, me and Tom have been in that deep, right? Um, that's the way we're gonna sail the ship.
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the start of something special because, obviously, me personally, I was in the porn addiction for somewhere between 10 and 14 years, depending on how you measure it. And then yourself, 17 years. Plenty of other guys in the program. It's been a few decades as well, right? And
Yeah.
thing with this education, because we understand the addictive part of the mind, we see these different parts and we're in control of ourselves. Like we know how to deal with this problem now. It
Yeah.
puts us in a very, very good position to now spread this message because the way you speak about things, right? Like the understanding you have is kind of like it's the same, right? Like it's just the same language. It's like we're now talking the same language. Do you know what I mean? So when I watch your YouTube videos, it's quite refreshing to me, especially recently because obviously I've gone down the rabbit hole of sort of comparing these different books by these experts at Stanford or James Clear and doing all this analysis and just reading all this helpless nonsense. And like, if I click on one of your YouTube videos and I'm actually hearing something a bit more empowering about how I do have a choice and this technology or the porn or whatever it is isn't in control of me. And it's refreshing because it's such a difference to the kind of methodologies, the ideas, the concepts that I read in these other books, like the one I read the other week, Dopamine Nation, where this woman's literally giving someone the advice to throw away his masturbation machine because she doesn't believe he can be in control of himself. Whereas we say like basically the opposite. Like literally we will tell our clients, remove your blocker. Like it's literally the opposite advice because we believe in the potential for people to be in control of themselves and we don't see any sort of judgment or we don't feel any like shame around this issue because we know that, well, it's just a neural pathway wiring that can be transformed and changed. And so I feel like, obviously you're going to go down the route now of sharing YouTube videos, talking about this problem, sharing your experience, probably analyzing other people's content now as well, because we can kind of see and identify all that junky thinking and unanswerable questions, right? But I'm sure there'll be many more people down the road as well who get this education and then make it their mission to kind of spread the word even further because they just believe and know and have experienced that life can be lived in a totally different way to what it once was for many, many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to anyone like obviously watching it, I would just say, listen, this is the paradigm shift. Like this gave me the paradigm shift. This method, listening to Tom and Mary talk and being coached by them as well, like it really did give the change for me. And if it did sort of give me the skills to be able to stop. And yeah, guys, honestly, this is something that you want to look into for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And
Nice.
I feel like you, I think even at the start, like you probably were a bit hesitant about it working because you tried a couple of things in the past and what we were saying was very different. But it's just about experiencing something, if once you've experienced something and you kind of have lived in a certain way for a while, then yeah, as you say, the trust compounds, the self-confidence compounds, and then it does ripple into every area of your life. And you just think and feel in a different way. And anyone can do it. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about Joe. Like, you're a great guy and everything, Joe, but like, there's nothing special about either of us. Like, let's be straight. There's nothing special about Mary. I think we all
Wait a
have
minute.
unique. Yeah, we all have unique talents, but I don't know. Like, I just think we're all human beings. I feel like humans think in way more similar ways than a lot of people
Yeah,
think. A lot of people think we're
yeah,
like alone and different and individualistic, but my
yeah,
experience is kind of the opposite. I think humans are a lot more similar than some people think we are.
yeah.
Yeah,
So true.
like
Yeah,
you don't sort of grow these like superpowers like sort of what we hear about on the sort of narrative, the nofap narrative and stuff like that. You don't suddenly like grow wings, right? You're just a person that really has control over their compulsion, and that's just in itself empowering and inevitably leads to a sense of self confidence and strength. That is pretty much the um, description of the reward I would give, and I believe when you hear about it online, how it feels to not be masturbating or, sorry, how it feels to be out of the compulsion of masturbation and pornography, or either the other way around. Um, this is what would be the description of the benefits that they feel, right? Nothing, nothing like, we're shooting lasers out our eyes or anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
you're not going to be flying, but
You're
you might feel a
right.
bit more in control of
Yeah.
yourself for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Cool. Cheers for coming on again, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
I'm
Daryl.
sure we'll have
Pleasure.
you
Thank you.
on again in the future. Maybe we'll do another update or something in like 3 or 4 months. Let's see. Maybe sooner. Cheers, Mary. As always
Yeah.
a pleasure to have you on. And we'll see
Yeah.
you in the next podcast, people. If you want to get in touch, by the way, or you want to learn more about the Beyond Compulsion Academy, couple of things. Joe, you got your YouTube channel. If people subscribe to you on there, can they get in touch with you if they want to maybe have a chat or anything?
Yeah, so on each of the videos, there's a link in the description for a free call, 30 minutes, and we can just talk about like where we're at, where you're at, and we can go from there. And then I link back to this channel as well, so there's all like a
Nice.
whole full circle.
Wicked. Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, go follow Joe. He's going to have more and more YouTube videos coming out. I'm sure we'll do some in the future together as well. And then yeah, keep in touch with us if you'd like by maybe getting on the email list. I send out emails probably on average, I'd say like 3 or 4 times a week. And they're kind of like a blog, which explains a bit more about the addicted part of the mind, junkie thoughts, sometimes just general updates and things that are on my mind. So yeah, if you sign up for the free training, you'll get enrolled onto the email list as well. So you can do that at www.beyondcompulsionacademy.com. See you there. Cheers, guys. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.